It's that time of the week again. It is bro science time. What we're looking at today is Mora's 14C28N steel in the Mora Garberg. Geez, my shed is getting messier and messier as Christmas approaches, but still have the space to do the same testing as last week, really, that I did with the Tarava Yakari Puko's 80 CRV2 steel. So that was quite well received. So I'm going to do more or less the same thing, maybe with some slight differences. But what we're going for is testing what this steel can do in Mora's Garberg knife, with an eventual aim to test the knife versus the Yakari Puko in multiple different ways, because they're fairly similar knife in both philosophy and in overall use. Let's see what we're going to do. Cool, so here's the Garberg. This is a brand new one, so it's not cut anything except for like a couple of bits of paper. So it's got its factory edge on it still with very slight micro bevel. Almost looks like a full scan to this one, but there you see, little silver micro bevel. And then that is the Yakari Puko, which had began with a same sort of grind. I put a bit of a higher secondary bevel on it, or a main bevel on it, I guess, through the Tormek just for my testing, and I also find it performs quite well like that. And as you see, both very similar sized knives in terms of, general overall robustness, thickness, both full tang, both kind of, Puko style, Mora style knives. Yeah, and they're both, well, not in Australia. These are still like $140 in Australia. Everyone said, oh, they'll come down, dude, don't worry. Because that was my main thing in my original review about this time last year, that they're too expensive. They didn't come down, not here anyway. They're still 150 for the leather sheath, which is really, really nice leather sheath. But yeah, 150 for the leather sheath, maybe 130 for the combo sheath. So there you go. These, with a sheath, they end up probably being, after shipping, about $100. Without a sheath, after shipping, they end up being about $70. You can only buy them from the Varustelka site. Anyway, what we're doing today with the Mora, so we're just putting this one aside now, because that one's not having an outing today. You can see this one's full testing in my most recent video before this one. So what we're doing this time is 3 ways of edge retention testing first up. So first off, factory edge. Awesome, huh? Be able to see what the factory edge of one of these can do. We'll be slicing the twisted sisal rope, as I do with all my other steel tests, until it no longer slices paper. So that'll be cool. And then what I'll be doing is putting a work sharp edge on it, using the work sharp kitchen knife guide right there, which is going to be good. And then I'll be doing a Tormek edge on it, so similar or the same as the Tarava edge, which is the 21 degrees. And then I'll even be doing a forced sort of scandying or scandivexing of the knife by hand. See how that does. So edge retention 4 ways really, which is kind of cool, surely. So stay tuned, folks. And then after that, I'll be doing some more toughness testing and rust testing. Should be a good video once again. Let's get to it. thirsty work, that stuff. It's a really hot day. What have we got? First of the four was the factory micro bevel. So that's really sharp out of the box, but the micro bevel is so small that on repetitive sort of fibrous tasks, it goes really, really quickly, and it became blunt really quickly. And for the whole time, because it's, when you think of the edge, it's actually quite a small and quite a broad V at the end. It really wasn't particularly fun to cut with either. So I would really recommend getting rid of that micro bevel if you're going to use this as a slicing or a cutting really knife. You must understand that micro bevel is obviously on there because they've marketed this as the hard use Mora, and they don't want people hard using it and rolling their delicate scanty edge straight away, so they put on a micro bevel. It's fine, I can understand why. The next one I did was the work sharp, which did really well. A micro convex at 20 degrees. I think that went to, what did it go to? 88 passes. Pretty good, not too bad, considering the Tarava went to about 100, I think, with the 80 CRV2. So 88 is definitely in the ballpark. Then I went to a Tormek, which was a 21 degrees, a fairly higher, like almost a proper cutting bevel. And that did 105, so that was the best out of all of them. That's against rope, of course. Whatever purpose you're going to use this knife for, you might decide to use it for. You might decide to set a different type of edge on it. And then lastly was the sort of Scandivex, which makes it sort of almost like a Falconeven F1 type edge, which is not particularly fun to slice with, but did stay sharp the whole time. You really do start to add quite a thick shoulder behind the immediate cutting edge, which makes it a little less fun and a little bit more of a push through to get the knife through that rope. But it held its edge pretty good to 85 passes, I believe. Overall, this is good steel, absolutely. You can see it's an upgrade on the 13C27 for sure. It's quite versatile. There's no edge damage with any of those type of bevels that I used against rope and stuff. So overall, it's a good choice and it's a good steel. The ideal for cutting rope, which, this isn't really a rope cutting knife. The ideal is, in my experience so far, the Tormek, just the proper, more traditional bevel. Right now it's still got the micro convex, which is kind of like a hybrid convex into Scandi sort of thing, which is what you get when a not particularly skilled person like myself uses waterstones, unless you've got a lot of time to do like single push strokes, lift, push stroke, lift on waterstones. If you just do the back and forth motion like I do, you're probably going to get a Scandivex or a convexy sort of thing. Anyway, so that's the edge stuff. It's good steel for sure. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just put a traditional V bevel on there again, because that's the easiest one to put on there, and also it's very good under the microscope, and just a good test edge for sure. So let's do it. So what do you reckon? I have had a whole bunch of tests done on this knife. Cutting tests, it did really well. I mean, once I got rid of that micro bevel, which as I said is really more for just initial durability, I would suggest. It can really do some good stuff once you put the whatever edges you're sort of after on it. In terms of rust resistance, set it in some salt water for a couple of hours. There's really no change compared to the carbon steel, obviously, which started rusting within the hour. But that's stainless steel versus carbon steel. The toughness test did really well as well. So it's got some tiny chips in it, but about as good as the Jikari Puko, really. When you looked at it under the microscope, so what I did was I marked these two bits. I put a unified edge across all of it using the Tormek, and then between those two black marks there, I struck against the windowsill once again. And once that was done about 5 or 6 times, same amount of times as last time, just with a firm press, sort of just to sort of simulate maybe going through accidentally scratching like a table or cutting without a cutting board or something similar maybe. When I did the full-on scan down with the microscope, once I finally got it working, sorry about my unsteady hands in the clip as well, I did find that there was some sort of very small indentations, but nothing, again, I can't just polish straight out with like a Tormek, at most 1,000 stone, probably really just the strop. So really cool stuff. This is great steel for a knife. If you don't want to get the price too high and go for like your 3Vs or your A2s even, that sort of stuff, this or the 80 CV2, I still not used to that name, are both really excellent choices. This one you get stainlessness, probably at the cost of a little bit of edge retention, maybe some toughness, I don't know. It's hard to prove that one or even really measure it, but it's still excellent. And you know what, if you're going into wetter environments, then this is probably a really great one to get if you're after just choosing between the two of them based on steel alone. Stay tuned for a proper comparison between the two knives though. I'm not sure which one I'll actually end up liking more. This is still the same. Nothing's changed on the Mora Garberg since my first review, really, from my initial impressions. It's not like they've gone over and made the handle more rubbery or anything like that. It still is just feeling like hard plastic, as hard and good as quality as that plastic is. I think I'm preferring the handle on the Tarava Jikari Puko a bit more, but really I'll be not drawing a conclusion until I've done a proper test. I'll try and be as neutral as I can be. Hope you've enjoyed this one. I'll do these sorts of tests on certain steels from time to time. It's quite labor intensive, so not on everything unfortunately, but hope you enjoyed it at any rate, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.